Alright, this is Hege. I'm with Radiant Illusions right now on the car ride out to Daytona. Russell Brown is with me, Patrick Spidey, and Tali Lisman. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Awesome sauce.
Great. So yes, I did have a few questions to get to understand the flow arts better and what you guys do. My first question is, how and when did you first get into flow arts?
Well, I had friends when I was a freshman in college about 3 years ago, and some of them were spinners, and so we would all hang out and they would spin, and eventually they got me to try it, and it stuck.
It stuck, huh?
Yeah, definitely stuck with me for a while.
Yeah.
And I just saw someone hula hooping at a music festival, and I was pretty much in love right there. Got a hula hoop and started practicing every day for like the next 4 months, and it's been love ever since.
For me, I went to a big burner party back in 2010, and I walked in and saw people spinning glow sticks on strings, and I was like, it's kind of lame, but I respect it as an art form. And then I walked outside and saw somebody doing the same thing with fire poi, and I completely changed my opinion about it and made the decision to pursue it as a lifestyle, and 5 years later, here I am.
Here you are, okay.
Best thing that ever happened to me.
It's quite a passion, okay. Alright. The next question is, which props do you prefer or specialize in for each of you? Which ones do you choose? Is it your main
I'd say I identify mostly as a staff spinner. Most people would consider me a staff spinner first and foremost, and it's the first prop that I ever played with, so that'll always have primary seat in my flow heart. But I definitely also enjoy spinning with a lot of different props. I'd say poi is starting to become a close second. It's just a lot of fun to mess around with. It's nice to be able to play with different types of props, vary it up so you don't get bored of any one thing. So I'd say staff is definitely first and foremost, but there's also dragon staff, poi, fans, double hoops has become something that I've become a lot more passionate about over the past 6 months.
Oh, cool.
And for me, I started spinning hoop, and over the years picked up double staff and fans, which I just started spinning a lot, and that's my favorite prop right now. But I like all the props. They're all fun.
All of them?
For me, I started off with poi for the first 2 years, and for that period of time I didn't spin anything else, and then I fell in love with contact staff and just the way it rolls around your body, the fluidity of it, and just the way that it kind of defies the laws of physics, but by utilizing physics. And then I picked up dragon staff shortly after, along with double staff, shortly followed by clubs, and I don't know, it's great to be a multi-prop spinner because you'll always hit a plateau in your learning and in your progression, and with that you need something to kind of divvy it up so that you're pushing yourself in other ways, and it kind of helps you along the path in other props as well. But I tend to identify most with being a contact staff spinner, dragon staff, and double contact staff as well.
Okay, alright. Now, I know you're all professionals, and you do this for a living, at least partly. Have you ever experienced any challenges or setbacks on this career path? Anything worth noting?
Yeah, it's definitely challenging to find gigs. I'd say that's probably the foremost problem when it comes to being a professional fire performer. Just finding enough gigs to kind of make it all worth it, as far like financially speaking. There's other problems here and there, but I'd say for the most part, just getting in contact with enough, like finding enough contacts and finding enough events that actually have a need for fire performers and are willing to. I guess that kind of plays into the next biggest problem, is finding people that are willing to actually pay market rates for their fire performers. A lot of people try and undercut or find someone who will kind of they can pay a lot less and they're not going to get the same performance from it all, but they're more worried about the financial aspect of things.
Yeah. Anything you want to add, or is it the same?
I agree with that. I think the promoting is the hardest part, but you know, if you love something, then you'll make it work. So it really just has it comes down to the amount of time and dedication that you put into, you know, finding gigs.
For me, in Atlanta, there wasn't really a market for, because I lived in Atlanta prior to moving down in Orlando for pretty much my entire life. And one of the hardest challenges for me was building the market up there, because it was very unheard of. It's not a very exotic area, but the few gigs that I did find definitely made it worth it. I'd say building the market and raising awareness, because a rising tide carries all ships, as well as, like Russell said, finding gigs in the first place.
Okay, all right. All right, next question, if I could see it. Oh, thank you. All right, well, that's a lot better. All right, so name some of your like favorite experience or events, such as festivals or venues that you support your passion for flow. Is there any favorites?
I would definitely say for everyone in the car here, Gratify would be on that list.
Gratify, okay.
Yep, Gratify.
I'm pretty sure that's what you
Top
guys were thinking when he said that. That's where these two lovebirds got together.
Oh, really? So that's
It was also the first time any of us ever performed together. Well, besides Tommy and Russell, but like us three as a whole all performed together, and we were just totally mobbing the entire time. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely a good example of like when you're working, but you're having a lot more fun than you are actually working.
Yeah.
That I think the time that we spent there performing was something we would have wanted to do, whether we were being paid or hired to do that. It was just a lot of fun at the same time.
Yeah.
It's about the passion and love, it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd say Earth Dance probably also qualifies on that list as well.
Earth Dance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any? What about any like specifically tailored festivals to flow? Like Flow Fest? Would you say?
Fest or Flame?
Flame.
Yeah,
I remember
Flame Fest was a big one for me. I've been every year since the beginning, and I've been heavily involved in the organization since. And Flame Fest, Kinetic Fire. We're gonna try to hit Pack Fire this year. That's Pacific Fire. There are festivals specifically tailored to flow, and the furtherance of that, is that even a word?
I think it is.
They do exist, and they're growing. Now there's a lot more local festivals dedicated to that popping up. There's spin jams in just about every city across the United States now. And if not, there's a small group of people meeting up just to spin and push each other. And it's inspiring, to say the least.
Okay, all right. So when you flow, do you listen to any specific music? And if so, what's your favorite artist or groups?
That's a hard one.
Oh, yeah.
There are so many artists that you could spin to.
Yeah.
I like chill music that I could spin to, because it doesn't take away from my like meditative state almost when I'm spinning.
Okay.
I think Emancipator would be a good example. Just like kind of chill, continuous instrumental music tends to make for good flow music.
Yeah.
Eastern music also tends to go with that whole meditation feel.
Beats Antique.
Desert Dwellers.
Desert Dwellers, Thievery Corporation. I find that, depending on my mood, I want to spin to different things, but I also find that music that's very crowded, where there's a lot going on, leaves me with a lot less room to think about what I'm doing.
Right.
Whereas, I can just kind of escape into the moment when I'm listening to more easygoing stuff, but that still, keeps me entranced.
All right. Wow. It sounds like you utilize meditation, and flow itself is almost a spiritual practice. Would you agree? Would you say you could integrate
It's more
spirituality in it?
It's more of a medium. I feel like it's just another way to tap into that internal stream of consciousness. People have different ways of getting in touch with that, whether it be through writing, photography, dancing, yoga, or just sitting down and meditating. Like if you're passionate about something. What's that?
in this case, it'd be dance.
Yeah,
Dance.
Type of dancing.
It's a type of dance,
It's a type of dance.
where you're engrossing yourself in the moment with a prop that's more or less your dance partner.
It's an extension of yourself.
Yeah, okay. I like that. It's extension of yourself. Okay.
Quite literally.
All right. So how would you say the flow community has evolved or changed since you first joined it?
It's grown a lot. When I first started hooping, I only knew, like, granted, I didn't have a community of people that I knew, but, you know, at the time I really didn't know any hoopers. I had to find the community of people that you know, hula hooped or that spun other props. And now I feel like, you know, you see hula hoops and other props everywhere. So it's grown a lot, I think, in the past, like, 6-7 years.
Yeah.
Like,
at the very least.
tremendously.
At the very least, in the past decade, it's gotten huge. Because, you know, it started really getting popular in the early 2000s, but that was still very unheard of in a lot of areas. You know, obviously there are more saturated areas where it was a big thing, but it's definitely become more, it's definitely become less sparse in terms of, like, how it's spread out, like different communities popping up for it.
I'd also say with the advent of things such as like music festivals and stuff like that have been growing over the past decade, and both events like that and events even just in downtown areas and at bars and stuff like that, utilizing fire performers as an entertainment type, people just tend to see it a lot more, whether it's on stage or whether they see it on film or whatever it is. It's more people are exposed to flow arts in general. So as more people hear about it and see it, more people want to try it, and more people get into it. And over over years of more people seeing and wanting to try it out, you get more people in general that end up being into the community of flow.
Not only that, but it's such an inclusive community, and everybody, well, not everybody, but the people that really get it, I would say, are very welcoming to anybody that's interested in it. So you could literally walk up to somebody that you see doing it at an event and just be like, oh my god, I really like what you do. And they'll appreciate that so much. They'll appreciate your appreciation so much that, you know, a lot of times, at least in my experience, I try to put people in touch with, you know, maybe their local community or people around my local community or even just me, to try to, like, keep them in the loop. And with so many people trying to do that, the community grows exponentially.
Mm-hmm. Wow, okay. Sounds like flow arts are making a big impact on our culture then, and it's growing pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
Certainly a part of it.
Okay. So, alright, almost wrapping up here. Just 2 more questions. Do you have any advice for any other flow artists, particularly those ones that want to be professionals like you? Is there any advice you could give?
Train.
Practice, yes.
Practice.
Train.
Don't forget to stretch.
Stretch. Would yoga help, I guess? For that?
Yoga would help a lot.
I love
Yoga helps a ton. If you don't stretch before you perform, you can really mess up parts of your body. Don't do anything on fire that you aren't 100% comfortable with, that you can't do at least 10 times in a row if you're performing, you know. Just try to think about not just what feels good, but also what looks good to the crowd. You gotta kind of find a happy medium there.
Okay.
There's too many people that just do what feels good, but it's not necessarily visually appealing to the audience. And that's the difference between somebody who just spins and a performer, you know?
Yeah. Showmanship, kind of.
Yep.
Showmanship, taking the audience's perspective into consideration. And, like I said, train, because that's how you really progress, is by spending just hours each day practicing, or whenever you can make time, just doing it. Every little minute adds up.
How many hours would you say you each train every day or week? An estimate, would you say?
That's really hard to say.
Yeah.
I would say, I mean, there are times that, you know, a couple days will go by and I won't spin, but on average, I spend at least 30 minutes every day.
30 minutes?
At least. When I first started hooping, the first year, and it's been 5 years, the first year I was hooping like 4 hours a day.
I would say
every day. It was serious, like 4 hours a day, every day for a year. And then, you know, went to like 3, then 2, and now it's a little more spread out. I also spin different props, so I jump around. So
it's pretty similar for me.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. When you first start, or rather when I first started, it's funny, I had been spinning for 5 years now, and when I first started spinning poi, I would go outside at my mom's house and just spin for, 4 or 5 hours a night, every single night, and I progressed an immense amount. And I feel like it kind of leveled out a little bit when I got a little bit more, I would say, advanced in my art. Now I don't need to practice as much, but I definitely try to whenever I make time. But it's hard with a varying schedule sometimes. Plus, you just lack motivation. But part of the dedication is pushing yourself to do it, even if you don't want to. And a lot of us need to remember that. All of us need to remember that, including myself.
Okay, cool. All right, my final question. I'm gonna merge the two. I should have asked sooner. Like, could you tell me the origin of Radiant Illusions? The meaning of the name, and if there's any upcoming events you want to speak about that Radiant Illusions is doing?
Well, let's see. As far as Radiant Illusions, coming up with the name, we kind of came up with like a list of different things that sort of we wanted the name to be indicative of what we did. So, it's a fire art, but fire is kind of like the idea along with fire is where radiant came from. Bright shining thing, whether it's light like LEDs or fire, and then it can definitely be said that flow arts and fire arts is very much an illusion. Like you're creating different shapes and doing different moves that might it's kind of hard to tell what exactly you're doing to those that don't know exactly what you're doing. So kind of combining those two ideas, radiant illusions, like a fiery enigma sort of thing.
That's cool.
Where the name came from. Plus, it sounds really cool. So
it does.
That was a plus.
I gotta agree. So yeah, any upcoming events you have planned for Radiant Illusions you want to share with people? Final word.
Right now we're on our way to a bike week gig. We had a bike week gig last night. We have another one tomorrow night out at a bar in Edgewater, and then we also have some very large events coming up with a new production company we're working with for the opening of Club 39, the grand opening, and that should be a very large production using some brand new, pretty awesome props that we haven't been able to use in a gig before. And then, as usual, we will be supplying the fire performers and helping run and manage all the performance arts and workshop scheduling for Earth Dance Florida for the 3rd year in a row.
3 years strong. Okay.
Oh yeah,
that's cool. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. I'm looking forward to this gig, and AJ out. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, AJ.
Thank you.